At 1:27 in the morning, Nadine read a message that ended 18 years of marriage. Not during a fight, not during a confession, not during some dramatic discovery. It happened in complete silence, in the dark, while her husband slept peacefully less than a foot away from her. Grant's phone vibrated once on the nightstand. A small sound, almost nothing. The kind of sound people ignore every day. But the screen lit up the darkness between them like a flare shot into the night sky. A warning. She reached for her water. That was all she intended to do. Just water. Just sleep. Just another normal night. Then she saw the screen, and everything split into before and after. Later, she would replay that second in her head hundreds of times. What if I hadn't looked? What if I had just taken the water? What if I had closed my eyes? But life doesn't change because of what we almost did. It changes because of what we did. And she looked. My wild fox, you are incredible. I miss you already. Thank you for the 2 unforgettable nights. Time did something strange. It didn't stop. It stretched. For a few seconds, she felt nothing. No anger, no screaming, no tears. Just a strange, empty silence inside her body. Then her heart started pounding so violently she was sure it would wake him. 2 nights. Her brain locked onto that detail. Not one mistake. Not one bad decision. 2 nights. Planned, repeated, chosen. The exact 2 nights he told her he was in Charlotte for a regional sales conference. In that moment, she understood something nobody ever explains about betrayal. The affair doesn't destroy you. The confirmation does. Because suspicion is pain. But confirmation is impact. Suspicion keeps hope alive. Confirmation kills it. Her stomach turned violently as her imagination betrayed her next. Hotel sheets. A different perfume on his skin. His voice softer than she had heard it in years. His laugh belonging to someone else. While she stayed home making chicken casserole. While she helped Sadie glue cardboard planets onto a solar system model. While she lived their real life. While he lived another one. 2 parallel lives. One honest, one hidden. And she had been the only one not invited into the truth. Her legs felt unstable when she stood up, like her body no longer fully belonged to her. The walk to the bathroom felt longer than usual. The cold tile shocked her bare feet back into reality. She turned on the light. Too bright. Too real. She splashed cold water onto her face. Once, twice, 3 times. Wake up, wake up, wake up. But this was not a nightmare. Reality did not reset. The woman in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Same face, same hair, same life. But something essential had disappeared. Trust. 18 years, she whispered. Her voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. 18 years of my life. And strangely, the worst part wasn't even the affair. It was the question that followed, the one that arrives like a slow poison. How long has this really been happening? Morning arrived like nothing had happened, which somehow felt like the cruelest part. Sunlight filled the kitchen. Coffee smelled the same. Same plates, same table, same marriage. Grant moved through breakfast like a man inside a perfectly normal life. Coffee, toast, emails, asking if Sadie packed her homework. Normal voice, normal face, perfect performance. Then he kissed Nadine on the cheek. The same routine kiss he had given her for years. The same lips that had just thanked another woman for unforgettable nights. He grabbed his briefcase, left the house, closed the door. Like he hadn't just detonated a bomb, she was now standing inside. Nadine stood there holding his empty plate. For one dangerous second, she imagined throwing it against the wall, just to hear something break outside her body instead of inside it. But she didn't. Because trauma rarely looks dramatic from the outside. People don't usually collapse. They load the dishwasher. She placed the plate gently into the sink. Then she did something automatic, something instinctive. She called the only person she trusted without question. Delia. Delia answered on the second ring. No hesitation. Nadine said they needed to meet. Delia didn't ask why, she just said yes. Too fast. At the time, Nadine thought it was loyalty. Later, she would understand it differently. The cafe smelled like roasted hazelnut and warm milk. Safe smells. Predictable smells. The kind of place where lives are supposed to stay normal. Delia was already there. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect posture. Delia always looked like someone in control, But when she saw Nadine's face, something cracked. Just slightly. Just for a fraction of a second. "Nadine, what happened?" Nadine didn't prepare the words, didn't soften them, didn't protect anyone. She just placed the truth between them like a loaded weapon. "Grant is cheating on me." Delia froze, not shocked, not confused, just still. Her fingers began tapping against her coffee cup, a small, nervous rhythm. "What makes you think that?" she asked. Carefully. Too carefully. Nadine raised her phone slightly. "I saw a message." Something crossed Delia's face. Fast, almost invisible, but wrong. Not surprise, not anger, recognition, then calculation, then control again. But Nadine saw it. And once you see something like that, you never unsee it. Nadine explained she was leaving, taking the kids, driving to her parents in Ashford. Caleb was home from college. She could take Sadie. Safe plan. Logical plan. Delia reacted instantly. Too instantly. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Maybe you shouldn't decide this so fast." Nadine slowly lifted her eyes and asked a question she didn't even plan. "Whose side are you on?" Delia hesitated. 1 second. Just 1 second. But sometimes 1 second is enough to permanently change how you see someone. "Yours," Delia said. But the word came out like it had resistance, like it had weight. And something quiet inside Nadine moved into place. Not knowledge, not proof. Instinct. The same instinct that made her look at the phone. The same instinct now whispering something new. Something colder. There is more. She stood up without finishing her coffee. Delia stayed seated, holding her cup like someone holding on to stability. Nadine stepped outside into the daylight, and for the first time since 1:27 a.m., she had a worse thought. A more dangerous thought. Maybe this wasn't just about Grant. Maybe the story she thought she understood had another chapter she hadn't seen yet. Maybe the real betrayal hadn't revealed itself yet. She almost forgot the math worksheet, and that small mistake is what made her see the truth. Sadie needed it by Tuesday, and it was still tucked inside her backpack in the front closet. Nadine had packed everything else, clothes, toiletries, Sadie's favorite butterfly pajamas, but the school papers had slipped her mind in the chaos of trying to hold herself together. She cursed under her breath as she parked in front of the house, her heart pounding harder than it should have for something so simple. The sun had already set and shadows stretched across the lawn like reaching arms. The driveway was empty, which made her feel safe. Grant was not supposed to be home for at least another hour, maybe 2. She told herself she had 10, maybe 15 minutes, just enough to grab the backpack and disappear. She moved quickly through the front door and into the hallway where the air felt different, heavier, like the house already knew it no longer belonged to her. She reached for the closet door and then froze completely, because the unmistakable sound of a key turning in the front lock sliced through the silence behind her. Her blood went cold. He was not supposed to be here, not yet. Not now. She thought about the back door, the kitchen, the side yard, a quick escape before anything ugly could unfold. But then she heard a voice, a woman's voice, and every plan she had dissolved into nothing. Grant chuckled and said something low and easy, something about not being so nervous, about Nadine having no idea. And then came the reply, soft and careful and achingly familiar, a voice that said she seemed different that morning, like she knew something. Nadine stopped breathing. That voice had whispered secrets with her in college dorm rooms, had held her hand during hospital stays, had stood beside her at the altar and promised to always be there. She would have known it anywhere. It was Delia. And for a second, Nadine wished she was wrong. Her maid of honor, her daughter's godmother, the woman she had trusted with every broken and beautiful piece of her life, the only person she never thought she would have to protect herself from. Nadine pressed her back against the kitchen wall and felt the world tilt sideways as footsteps moved through the foyer and laughter echoed off the walls of a home she had built with her own hands. She heard Grant say something about finally being alone, and heard Delia sigh as though it were a relief, and then they began climbing the stairs toward the bedroom. Each creak of the staircase hit Nadine like a slap across the face. She used to love that sound. Grant used to carry her up those very steps when they were young and reckless and believed that love was something that could shield them from anything. She did not know what made her follow them, but suddenly she was climbing one step at a time, her knees shaking, her hand trailing along the banister for balance. The bedroom door was slightly open, golden light spilling through the crack along with low voices and quiet laughter. She pushed the door open and flipped the light switch. The room snapped into sharp clarity. Grant stood frozen with his shirt half unbuttoned, his hair a mess from hands that were not his own. Delia was beside the bed, face drained of color, eyes wide with a horror so deep it looked ancient. Grant spoke first, stumbling over the words, saying it was not what it looked like while stepping away from Delia, as though distance could undo anything. Nadine tilted her head and asked calmly if he was sure about that, because from where she was standing it looked exactly like her husband and her best friend were about to betray her in her own bed. Delia tried to open her mouth, but Nadine cut through her before a single syllable escaped. She told her she did not get to say her name. Not now. Not after every time she sat across from her and called her lucky, called Grant a dream husband, called them the perfect couple. She asked if all of it had been part of the game and then told her not to answer because she already knew. Grant stepped forward, and Nadine held up her hand and told him not to come any closer. She said she had both of their messages saved. Every word, every pet name, every disgusting line of affection that should have been hers. Grant's face crumbled and he whispered that he loved her. Nadine looked at him steadily and said it was too bad he forgot to mention that to his little fox. Then she turned, walked down the stairs, past the photos from Florence that once made her smile, past the hallway mirror Sadie had covered with magnets from every family vacation they ever took, and she picked up her suitcase and opened the front door. Grant called after her from the top of the stairs, his voice cracking. But Nadine stepped out into the night and did not look back. The highway blurred beneath her tires. She did not remember deciding where she was going. Nadine could not remember turning onto it or checking the fuel gauge or even breathing properly since she walked out of that house. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had gone white, and the air inside the car felt suffocating, thick with memories that had nowhere else to go. She saw flashes of everything behind her eyes. Her wedding day, Sadie's first steps, the night Caleb opened his college acceptance letter, all of it playing like scenes from someone else's life, someone who still believed in loyalty and promises and forever. A warning light blinked on the dashboard. Low fuel. She muttered a curse and pulled off at the next exit where a gas station sat beneath harsh fluorescent lights, looking like something out of a late-night film. Empty, too quiet, and completely unreal. She stepped out into the cold air and barely noticed the man behind the counter at first because she was too busy fumbling with her credit card and too busy trying to keep the tears from falling. He asked if she was having a rough night, and she did not look up. Just asked what made him say that. He told her that most people do not cry while filling up their tank. She touched her cheek and realized he was right. Her skin was wet and she had not even noticed. She mumbled an apology, but he waved it off and offered her a coffee on the house. Like he had done this before for people whose lives had just collapsed. Something in his voice made her pause. Not pity, not curiosity, just a steady calm that felt like solid ground beneath her feet. He handed her a paper cup and poured. His name was Emmett, owner, cashier, and midnight philosopher, or so he said with a half smile that expected nothing in return. They sat at a tiny table tucked in the corner of the store, surrounded by snack racks and road atlases and the low hum of a heater in the background. Nadine told him she was not planning to tell anyone what had happened. Not yet, not for a while, but then again she was not planning on finding out her husband had been sleeping with her best friend either. Emmett did not flinch and did not ask for details. He just waited. She told him about the 18 years of marriage, the message on the phone at 1:30 in the morning, the voice in the hallway that she recognized before her brain could even process what it meant, the laughter as they climbed the stairs to the bedroom she had decorated herself. She said she thought they were solid, that Grant used to hold her hand in parking lots and tell her she made him feel grounded, and that Delia had been there for every milestone of her life. Emmett listened with eyes that understood more than they let on. He told her he had lost his wife 4 years ago in a car accident, and that after she died, a few close friends disappeared, while others resurfaced carrying truths he never wanted to hear. He said he kept the gas station because it was quiet and predictable, a place where he could talk to strangers who would leave without attachment. She asked why he was talking to her then, and he shrugged and said, maybe it was because she looked like someone who needed another person to sit with her while the world fell apart. They exchanged numbers before she left, not as a promise, but as a small open door. He told her to call if she ever needed more caffeine and less judgment, and for the first time that night, something close to a laugh escaped her throat. She drove the rest of the way to Ashford with the heater on and the windows cracked just slightly, the trees blurring past like shadows. Her parents' house had not changed. The porch still creaked in the same spots and the air still smelled like cedar and chimney smoke. But everything inside Nadine was unrecognizable. Her mother met her at the door still in her nightgown, hair pinned back tight, and her eyes scanned the suitcase, the tight line of Nadine's mouth, and she did not ask a single question. Caleb had driven in from campus hours early and met her with a silent hug that said everything words could not. Sadie was already curled up under a blanket upstairs. The next morning, her mother made cinnamon French toast, as if sweetness could erase what had happened. Then, while Sadie and Caleb were outside with their grandfather, she set down her spatula and said calmly that she had invited Grant. Nadine put down her fork and stared at her. Her mother folded her napkin slowly and deliberately and said that all men stray now and then, like she was explaining the weather, and that it did not mean you burn the whole house down. Nadine asked if she honestly believed this was about one mistake, because her husband had been sleeping with her best friend in their own bed. Her mother's expression did not change. She simply said it was still her marriage and that she should fight for it. Nadine pushed her chair back, stood up, and told her she had been fighting for that marriage for 18 years and she was not going another round. Her mother sighed in a quiet, permanent kind of disappointment, but Nadine was already walking away. That evening, after Sadie had gone to bed and the house was dark and still, Nadine sat at the kitchen table and filled out every line of the divorce papers without stopping once. The courthouse in Augusta was gray and cold, a fitting place to end a marriage. On the morning Nadine arrived in a charcoal gray suit she had not worn in years. The heels pinched and her heart did worse. Grant was already seated inside, looking hollowed out and exhausted, not a trace of the polished confidence he usually carried like armor. They sat across from each other without speaking, while the lawyers worked through the logistics of dissolving 18 years of shared life, as though they were dividing office supplies rather than a home, a family, and every memory that once meant something. Like 18 years could be reduced to paperwork. The judge began reviewing the proposed division of assets when Grant interrupted and asked to make a statement. Nadine's attorney looked at her with surprise, but Grant was already standing, hands at his sides, voice steady in a way that almost made him sound like a different person. He said he was waiving his right to any shared property, and that everything would go to Nadine and the children, the house, the car, the accounts, all of it. The courtroom stirred with whispers, and even the judge paused to ask if he understood what he was saying. He said he did. Nadine stared at him, not with gratitude, not with relief, but with a confusion that sat heavy in her stomach. She could not tell if this was guilt or strategy or simply a man trying to find the only gesture large enough to say what his mouth never could. Then she saw her. Delia had slipped in through the back of the courtroom and was sitting alone with her coat drawn tightly around her, like she was trying to disappear into herself. She looked thin and pale, her eyes hollowed by something deeper than sleepless nights. Grant did not glance in her direction. Not once. Not even when the room fell silent and the weight of what he had done settled over everyone like dust. Something between them had already ended, quietly and completely, before anyone in that room could witness it. When it was over, Nadine walked past Grant without a word. She did not owe him anything anymore. Not tears, not anger, not even acknowledgement. Outside the courthouse, the cold air bit into her skin, sharp and clarifying, and she kept walking without looking back. 7 months passed. The townhouse in Macon was not large, but it was hers. The floors creaked in odd places and the walls still smelled faintly of fresh paint. But on the best mornings, Nadine would wake up and forget for one blissful second that her entire life had collapsed to make room for this new one. Caleb had helped her move the heaviest boxes, and Sadie had already claimed the biggest bedroom by hanging a painting she made herself, a wild swirl of deep purples, copper tones, and pale greens that she called Mom's Fresh Start. One evening, while unpacking the last box from the old house, a box she had avoided for weeks, Nadine found something she was not expecting. Beneath yellowed receipts and half-used notebooks and college trinkets she had forgotten she owned, there was a bundle of letters tied together with a ribbon that had faded to gray. The handwriting on the envelopes was Delia's. Each letter was addressed to Grant and postmarked from the year before Nadine and Grant had ever met. She opened the first one and the words hit her like a wave. "I miss you," it read. "Why will you not write back? I wait every day for the mail hoping to see your name." She opened another. You promised you would wait for me. I do not understand what changed. Please, if you have moved on, just say so. Another still. I guess I have my answer now. You are gone, but I will not forget. The last envelope held a photograph of Delia and Grant as teenagers, leaning against a wooden fence, smiling with the kind of love that had no idea what the world was about to do to it. Nadine sat on the floor with her breath coming in shallow bursts. They had known each other long before she ever entered the picture, and no one had said a single word in 18 years. She could not sleep that night, and the next morning she drove to the one person who might have answers. Grant's mother met her on the porch with the same guarded expression she had always worn. Inside, the house smelled like lavender polish, and nothing had changed. Not the teacups, not the striped cream wallpaper, not the careful silence that lived between every sentence. Nadine asked bluntly if she knew about Grant and Delia from before college. The woman's mouth tightened and she said it was a long time ago. Nadine pressed harder. She said Grant had written letters for months after the family moved and never received a single reply. But that was not true because Nadine had found dozens of letters from Delia that never reached him either. Grant's mother frowned and said her son had written every week and that they had even checked the mailbox together. Nadine asked if anyone else had lived with them at the time. Her mother-in-law said slowly that her own mother had been staying with them and asked why it mattered. Nadine pulled out the final letter from the bundle. It was not from Delia and it was not from Grant. It was written by Delia's grandmother and addressed to Delia's mother. The words were plain and cold. I intercepted all his letters. She does not need distractions. Let her think he moved on. She deserves someone better. Grant's mother read it with trembling hands and whispered that they never knew, that neither of them ever knew. Nadine confirmed it. Grant and Delia had spent almost 20 years believing they had been abandoned by each other, and the truth had been sitting in a dead woman's handwriting all along. That evening, Nadine sat in her backyard staring at her phone. She dialed Grant's number and he answered on the second ring. She told him she had found the letters and the truth. There was silence on the other end, long and heavy. She told him that she believed he and Delia had spent 2 decades thinking they were forgotten. But the reality was that someone had made sure they never had a chance. Grant exhaled and asked if it was real. Nadine said yes. He did not ask what she wanted and he did not apologize. He simply said, "Thank you for telling me." And then he hung up. Some stories do not end with closure. They end with understanding. Nadine sat in the backyard for a long time after that phone call, staring at the trees and the sky and the past she thought she understood. She asked herself the question she had been avoiding since the night she found those letters. Was she the rebound, the replacement, the woman Grant settled for because the one he truly wanted had vanished from his life without explanation? Maybe in the beginning that was exactly what she was. But somewhere over 18 years of shared meals and sleepless nights with sick children and arguments about money and quiet mornings where he brought her coffee without being asked, they had become something else, something that for a time felt undeniably real. Still, real does not always mean it was built to last. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. Delia showed up at her door on a Tuesday morning with no makeup, no earrings, and no mask. She looked older than Nadine remembered. Not in the way time changes a face, but in the way regret does. Slowly and from the inside out. She stood on the porch like a stranger, afraid to knock. But Nadine opened the door before she found the courage. Delia said she needed to talk, and Nadine told her she did not. But something in Delia's voice stopped her. Not guilt and not desperation. Just the kind of exhaustion that settles deep in your bones when you finally run out of ways to pretend. They sat across from each other in the small kitchen with the table between them like a battlefield. Nadine offered no coffee and no kindness, just silence. Delia said quietly that she had loved Grant, that she had loved him before Nadine ever met him, that he was her first everything. But he moved away and she never heard from him again because someone made sure of that. Nadine told her she already knew, that she had found every letter and every lie. Delia looked like someone whose entire life had just been rewritten in front of her. She admitted that when she first met Nadine in college and realized she was with Grant, she told herself she was over it, but she was not. She confessed that at first she became Nadine's friend just to stay close to him, but that somewhere along the way she genuinely started to care about her, as a friend, as family. Nadine said flatly that she still slept with him. Delia did not deny it. She said it happened 5 months ago at the company's annual gala, that they both drank too much, And that one minute they were laughing, and the next, everything crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Nadine told her to stop, that she did not need the blurry details. Delia said she was not there to justify anything, only to say that it had not been going on for years, that it was not some long affair behind her back. Nadine asked if she thought that made it better. Delia's voice cracked when she said no, that it made it worse because it meant they both knew better and did it anyway. She told Nadine she was moving to Portland, that she had taken a job offer and needed to go somewhere that did not remind her of everything she had destroyed. Nadine did not offer a goodbye hug and did not cry. When Delia left, it felt like a door had finally closed that should have been shut a long time ago. That evening, her mother came over and stood in the kitchen, studying her daughter like a puzzle she had never been able to solve. She said she had always believed that holding a family together through endurance was strength. But she was wrong, and that watching Nadine walk away from something broken instead of disappearing inside it had changed the way she saw her own life. She told Nadine she was proud of her for not letting anyone else decide her worth. Nadine did not have words for that, so she simply nodded and let the silence hold what language could not. Later that night, she picked up her phone and texted Emmett. "Dinner this weekend, just you and me, no ghosts." His reply came fast. "Saturday works, I will bring the bourbon, you bring the stories." And for the first time in what felt like forever, Nadine looked forward to something. Caleb came home for the summer and surprised her by bringing a girl named Noelle who was quiet and kind, and watched him with the sort of gaze that did not take anything for granted. Sadie finished her mural on the bedroom wall and added a small copper sun in the corner that she said represented the part of the story where things start getting warm again. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, Grant called. He said he was not calling to fix anything, just to tell her he was sorry, not only for what he did, but for how long he let her be alone inside their marriage. Nadine did not say much, but she listened, and when she hung up, she felt no anger, just a faint ache like pressing a finger against a scar that had finally stopped bleeding. Later that week, she found herself back at the same gas station where she had first met Emmett. The sky was overcast, the pumps were still unreliable, and the little table inside was now surrounded by potted plants and travel mugs for sale. He looked up from behind the counter and his eyes lit up the way they always did when she walked in. He said she never did finish telling him the rest of her story, and she smiled and told him that was because she was still writing it. And this time, she was the one holding the pen. They sat down side by side this time, not across from each other, and there was no past left to outrun and no future that needed chasing. Just two people exactly where they were supposed to be. Some endings are not about who you end up with. They are about who you become after everything falls apart. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button, drop a comment telling us whether you think Nadine should have told Grant the truth about the letters or let the past stay buried, and subscribe to Sinner Stories so you never miss a new video.